I wasn't ready. I wasn't equipped. I then discover through all of these challenges, trials, tribulations, tests, failures, comebacks, knockbacks, get to a place where all is kind of revealed. Welcome to Led From Within. In this episode, we talk about purpose, why, and how really to lean into that purpose and get very clear in a very distracted world. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Led from within. That's what we've been talking about, and we're going to be talking about that again today. What does that mean to you, Dan? Led from within.
Led from within is making decisions based on what's going on internally, making decisions from a stronger place than what can I get. I guess ultimately we're always seeking what can we get, but it's changing that mindset to what can I give, what can I become, what can I be, and leaving more of an imprint on the world.
So we're going to talk today about purpose. We're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about why people drift. But you just said something that I want to ask you about. So what do you think is actually going on inside so many people's heads? Because I know in the world today we have more mental health problems than we've ever had. We've had more suicide than ever, more anxiety, more depression. What actually is going on in our world?
I think just so much. I think there's just so much going on, and the world is moving at such a pace that, you know, you kind of have to run to stand still, and people are just they're just juggling. You know, there's a funny kind of, I think it was a meme or something of a man just spinning a lot of plates. Like a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they're just constantly spinning plates. They have to be there, they have to be there. And the pressure of life can be overwhelming. And so I think that's why you see a lot of people, I've seen many people go from this kind of like fast-paced lifestyle to becoming almost like hippie-like, because, you know, some people, they just want to get away from it. But for the kind of everyday person who's not necessarily in business, I think it is just life is just moving at such a pace. There's so much pressure, and people feel like there's so much that they have to prove. There's so much expectation on them, raising their family, or, you know, having enough money, and I just think it's a massive build up of pressure. I think overall the world is suffering from a hardened heart. A lot of people have lost trust in people. A lot of people have lost faith in humanity. They're tied into news, which is always giving you constant disaster after disaster, and people are just can't seem to find hope.
Yeah. You know, well, hope is when you know that there's a better future than what's actually going on right now. And we can see that that's really challenging for a lot of people, because living seems very, very challenging right now.
Yeah.
So when we talk about purpose, what does that mean to you? When people, because we hear a lot, having a purpose. Yeah. What does that mean?
I guess it comes back to, if people haven't listened to the previous episode, is answering the call to your calling, because we've all got something in us. We're all unique in our own individual way. Every single one of our fingertips is uniquely different, and we all have an inner calling, and it's whether you want to pick up the call, as you've said before.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very famous TED talk by Simon Sinek, which he talks about. It starts with why, and that people don't buy what you do or how you do it. They buy why you do it. And he talks about Apple, actually, that Apple's frame was all around making the best equipment for people, that they would want to use it. They could associate themselves with the company's why. What's your why? Why do you do what you do? Why do you get out of bed every day?
Well, I think my why started from episode 1, where the reason why was just built on a survival instinct of getting through, and then it became more about healing, then it became more about being, and then it became more about giving. But I think most people, they start off with you know, well, he who has a strong enough why can bear any how. So people,
who said that?
I'm actually not too sure. I just remember hearing it, and it's powerful. I think it's like Nietzsche or somewhere. He who has a why can bear any how. So traditionally in business, people's why would be like, and this is where I think in entrepreneurship it's become very shallow, and very like goal orientated and do things to tick the box, not because you actually mean it or want it. It's coming from, again, not being led from within. We set goals. I want to make this amount of money. A lot of people say, I want to retire my parents, but I just think they like the sound of it, because your parents might not even want to be retired, you know.
Yeah.
Retiring is sometimes the worst thing that can happen. So we're obsessed with writing these goals and having these clickbait words. And I think, you know, knowing your why is very important, but nowadays it's just sold to you. So it's a great way. It's a great tactic that entrepreneur and people use. But ultimately, knowing exactly what you're here to do and having a driving factor or having a strong why is important, but not a surface level, shallow why. It's really coming from a deeper place. Like, why is it that you want to do this thing? Because if you know truly why you're doing something, the decisions are so much stronger.
Well, it's fascinating because I've actually never thought about it in the way that having this conversation has made me think about it. Because yes, my why has changed, but I realized my why was fueled by massive insecurity. So my why was fueled by, I'm not enough. I need validation. I need acceptance. I'm running away from rejection and I'm running towards recognition. And that was my why.
Yeah.
And that almost killed me. I had chronic fatigue for 10 years. That was my why. My why now is very, very different. What about you?
Yeah, same. I think my why at the beginning was very shallow, because I was just learning from someone who had learned, from someone who'd learned, from someone who'd learned. And it was very basic, you know, why I want to make more money, why I want freedom, without even thinking about what does freedom mean. We don't even, like, people are operating at such a surface, shallow level. And that's why it doesn't have a strong conviction. Because if you just aimly write on a piece of paper, I want to make 100 grand a month, but you don't actually have a clue, like why, how, you don't actually truly believe it. It's not driven by an authentic, motive. It's all just kind of rubbish, and people wonder why it doesn't stick.
So you've heard me say this before, and I know it makes you laugh, but you know when I told you that all the hairs on my back are standing up on end?
Yeah.
They are. And there's a lot of hair, because I do have a lot of hair on my back. But it's just that realization of what my why was. And I would ask everyone to, if they wanted to stop and think about, not to judge, not to blame, not to shame, but what is your why? Is your why the fact that you feel there's something missing in your life, whether it's approval, love, acceptance, and you're looking for something outside of you to make you feel complete or to fill in that void?
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting question, because to take the lead or to be led from inside, you've got to look inside. And I can understand why a lot of people run away. And that is where distraction comes from. I think that if you're discouraged in your life, if you felt rejection, if you felt something that's hard and difficult, you don't want to, a lot of people don't want to address that. It's painful. So let's get distracted. And how do you see distraction affecting people? Because I see distraction everywhere.
Yeah. Every day you're subscribing, like mentally and physically and emotionally subscribing to people's channels, their opinions, their mindsets, their ways of living.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you subscribe to so much that now you don't know where to look or what to do. So it's very hard to get clear. And 1 minute you're pulled here, next minute you're pulled there. And I think this modern age of personal development doesn't help at all, because you can have, I was just thinking of something that I remember is I was watching a popular podcast on Monday, and he had somebody who was talking about how veganism is, the way to go. And then on Wednesday he had a carnivore, and it's like, that's everywhere. And how are we supposed to build up how are you supposed to build your own philosophies and understand your own why and your own meaning, your own purpose, your own calling, when all you're ever doing is subscribing and listening to somebody else's version? But to turn that off is difficult, especially when it's become a part of you, because again, you've grown up with it. This modern day version of just listen to everything you can, listen to as much motivation as you can, which I'm all here for. But for me, I'm here for the motivation and obviously the personal development. But for me, I choose like usually one voice. So I'll listen to John C. Maxwell hours and hours and hours and hours on end, or Jim Rohn hours and hours and hours on end. Whereas a lot of people they have 15 books on the go, they have 15 podcasts on the go, and they're just constantly subscribing into other people's versions. And one thing that John C. Maxwell said, which I'm not sure if it's true, but it sounds about true, is that most people's first dream is actually their parents' dream, because the first thing that most parents do is they push onto their kids what they never had or never could or never would do. So, a lot like for example, for me, I had like the pressure of becoming a footballer. Now, I don't know whether it's because I just love football, which I think it did, but also that was a lot of pressure come from, above me, because they wanted me to become a footballer. And so there's so much pressure pushing and pulling you this way and that way. And the world is very noisy.
Well, if we talk about a book that we both love, in fact, going back to something else that you just said there about looking at books, but you also take advice from a couple of people who are alive, who you know, and you talk to them. And I'm like you, I take advice from myself. Alex Hormozy is an interesting guy, very well known in the world of entrepreneurship. I loved one of the things I heard him say: the best person to coach you is the person that you could become, and I take advice from just very, very few people, because otherwise it's so easy to get confused.
Yeah.
In a world, like you said, that everyone's trying to pull you in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And I remember reading the man who won the Nobel Prize in the early 70s said the biggest problem in the world is there's just too much information.
Yeah.
And the way that I genuinely feel for people now who have grown up in you're a millennial. What came after the millennials?
Is it Gen Z?
Gen Zs, because that era of 2010 to 2015, they call that the great rewiring.
Right.
How social media completely rewired the way. And then there was obviously, what was that thing called? COVID.
Yeah.
There's just everyone's getting information from their phone pretty much.
Yeah.
But what's really, I think, is wrong. I don't say this about too many things, but be careful what you look at, because if you look at it, you're going to keep being fed the same thing.
Yeah.
So that makes it even more difficult to actually step back from the noise and think about, what do you think about all of this? Not what you're being conditioned to think by what other people are trying to tell you.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to try and work out some of this stuff for yourself about what you're 100%. Here to do, what your purpose is?
Yeah, no, I think it's like imperative, and being mindful of what you're influenced by and who you're influenced by, because like you said, I've got great people in my life that I listen to, but there's always someone somewhere trying to give me their opinion, trying to give me their advice. Like I always tell people, when I started to accumulate money, a lot of people would come to me for opportunities, but what I realized was there was only one opportunity, and that was me. I was the opportunity for them. So they came in show up as if they had an opportunity for me, but really I was the opportunity for them. And I realized that, and that's when I became very, very mindful of who I'm allowing to influence me, because there's, people will have interesting ways of manipulating. Whether they're doing it on purpose or not is a different story. But ultimately, in a busy world, we're just like, what can we get? What can we get? What can we get? We don't think about the knock-on effect or the repercussions, because there are actually some great people that make bad decisions because of that reason. So, I'm very mindful of who I listen to, and I think we've already mentioned it before. It's just making sure that when I'm seeking counsel from someone, there's not an unconscious bias, that I can ask people that are in a different world to me, but they have sometimes you have to step out of the world you're in to kind of see it from a different point of view. And so that's really big for me. I don't listen to too many people, whether it's from audios and podcasts all the way through to people who I listen to in real life. I think that's really important.
It's amazing. I told you the other day that I realized about myself, disappointment is something I feel a lot in my life. And I wrote it down. I was thinking about it, and I thought I'm just going to go for a walk and almost what some people might call meditate on that, or just create some silence and some space. And I realized where that disappointment comes from. It comes from wanting outcomes.
Yeah.
Wanting expectations. And then you can see that if I don't get those outcomes and the expectations I have, I can feel disappointed.
Yeah.
And in my disappointed, I can just get so distracted.
Yeah.
And distracted to the point where it's hard to get traction again on what it is that is important. So I want to ask you this question. Do you think your purpose is something you discover or something you uncover?
I think a bit of both, to be honest.
You discover it by
Yeah,
uncovering it.
yeah, I guess so. I mean,
You find it, or is it already there? It's just up to you.
I think
For you,
I think deep down it was already there, because, like I said, when I rewind my life and I look at, I always had an innate desire to want to do what I'm kind of doing, but I wasn't sure on the motive, the way. I wasn't ready. I wasn't equipped. So I then discover through all of these challenges, trials, tribulations, tests, failures, comebacks, knockbacks, get to a place where all is kind of revealed. So that, and I think, because I know you mentioned Napoleon Hill said that most people, it takes them 50 years to get to this kind of second mountain. And I think not many people are willing to wait that long, because we want it all here and now, don't we? But that process of really discovering and uncovering your true purpose, I think, takes time, because you need to gain wisdom. You need to know the world. And even now, I'm aware that I'm 32. I think I'm still really young to be stepping into this kind of way of thinking and this message to people. Maybe they won't take it. I'm not sure how people will receive it. But I think it all, again, comes down to playing the long game. If you want to discover and uncover your real purpose and your real calling, it's going to take time. It's going to be a long game. And you might not create something from it for a long time.
So a lot of what you're doing in taking the lead is sharing information with people because it's what you're being called to do.
Yeah, but I'm sharing it because I truly believe that it's the right information and it's the truth that I've uncovered and I've experienced, versus what people want to hear, what people will subscribe to, what people will pay for. Because I could quite easily whip up a mindset course and start selling that for a few grand, but it won't be giving people what they need.
Yeah, it's interesting what your why is and your purpose. I mean, mine's definitely around, as you know, not that I've been too public about this, about stop to think and realize that there's kind of two ways you can think in this life. You can think about just getting on with it and never really stop and appreciate and ask questions, or you can just go with it, which is really kind of stopping and allowing things to unfold. What do you think Napoleon Hill and so many people in the field of sort of personal professional development, when they talk about having a purpose, what do you think they mean? Why is so much significance and importance placed on having a purpose?
I think somebody who has purpose is very sure of what they're doing, so it allows them to not get distracted, because they're kind of magnified and they're locked in, they're zoned in into one thing that they're committed to doing, achieving, or whatever that mission is. And so when you have a real purpose, I just think you see very clearly. You see it's right in front of you, and it's kind of like you're just tunnel vision.
So what if someone's purpose is to make as much money as they possibly can?
I don't think anyone's true purpose is actually that, but maybe people feel that might be at that time.
Yeah, to be a billionaire.
Yeah, to be a billionaire. I mean, I think obviously making $1 billion is an outcome of solving big problems or creating something very revolutionary. But even the people that have got that, I don't think. Well, it'd be interesting to know, but I'm not sure if Steve Jobs or I'm not sure if Jeff Bezos' goal was to become a billionaire. I just think he wanted to build a company called Amazon, and it became $1 billion. I might be wrong, but I don't think many people maybe some people do, but I don't think that's their entire purpose. I think the purpose is that he wanted to create a library for people.
Yeah.
He had a passion to get these, to innovate a library. As a consequence, he built Amazon, which went to $1 billion.
So how much of that do you think is about, if people spend time with self, getting help and supported, where they start to have a better understanding and a sense, some clarity around a purpose and a why, how much then do you think as a result of knowing that faith comes into it? That allowing things to happen as a result of knowing who you are and what you're here to do?
Yeah, I think that creates a lot of confidence and strong self-esteem, which is what I think a lot of people struggle with: self-worth and self-esteem. And again, the more sure and the more confident you become in yourself, you can slow down a lot more, listen more, be more receptive to what you're seeing, hearing, and start to draw lines and build understanding. And you become, I think, more open-minded. You'll start to see the evidence of
such showing up.
Yeah.
I think what's really fascinating is that if in life you want to do something, achieve something, that there will always be some resistance.
Always.
It's probably going to be difficult and challenging. It might not work out the way that you wanted to, but if you do have a purpose and why, and faith, you'll probably be more equipped at dealing with the success that comes, or dealing with the failure that might come.
Yeah.
So I suppose finally, in terms of serving others, your purpose and your why being about doing something for others as opposed to doing something for yourself, what do you think the difference is for you?
For me, again, I think it's being in right standing with our faith. I mean, I love, it's a very Christian way of living, and, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. I think if everybody lived, I mean, it would be an amazing world if everybody lived by that. And so it's having the courage to trust, and that's something that I didn't have, because I was afraid to do something for you in case you betrayed me, or in case I helped you with something, you didn't appreciate it, versus I'm just going to love you and do for you what I would want for me, because that's the right thing to do. And so I kind of built, a lot of trust, a lot of confidence, self-esteem, and through kind of my faith, and just live in a way that would please God. Yeah. So do you have the courage and the capacity to love somebody that might not reciprocate? Yeah, and that's a hard concept for a lot of people to understand, especially in the business world, where it's like, mate, I'm not doing that for him because he wouldn't do it for me, or I'm not doing that for him because of what he did last year or what he might do. Whereas, like, I'm kind of just living in a place where, and also gatekeeping, like, I'm going to hold a bit back, like in like marketing or whatever. It's like, we'll give them a little bit so they want more, and then I'll sell them this. Where it's like, listen, whatever you need, I'm here to serve. Like, what can I do for you? How can I help? What do you want in return? Nothing. And I know that's something that a lot of people can't get their head around.
Why not?
Because it's a transactional world, isn't it? We live in a transactional world. I'll do whatever I'll do for you if you do for me. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Yeah, that kind of,
what's in always, it for me?
Yeah, exchange of value. Always sizing people up. What's he about? What can I get from him? But yeah, I think there's something really inspiring and empowering when someone kind of just shows up and expects nothing in return. And I think also that in the long run, there's always a divine happening where you'll be rewarded, and you live without expectation, but things just show up.
I think that's what led from within really is all about, in a nutshell.
100%. Yeah, being led from within is just, I'm going to be my true, authentic self at any cost, because that's what I believe the right thing to do is. And I don't know how that looks in return, but all I know is that as long as I'm living on purpose, with purpose, everything will be fine, because ultimately when we get to the end of this life.
Yeah, well, there's that other quote, isn't there? Hell has come to the end of your life and meeting the person that you could have become.
Yeah.
And we're all going to meet that person. But
we will all stand before judgment one day, and we won't be, I don't think you'll be able to get into heaven with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Really? Well, I think we're all going to find out ultimately, but I think what's amazing is all your work around led from within is something you're doing first. And when you talk about loving thy neighbor as you're loving yourself, that to me is my why now, is to love myself, and whatever happens as a result of that is, well, let's see, let's let this thing unfold. And I think that's where faith comes from. And what would you say to someone who maybe is a bit lost right now and think, I don't know what my why is, I don't know what my purpose is?
Yeah, first of all, the reason why people get so flustered is because they think everybody else has already got it figured out. Yeah. But they haven't. And if people knew that, I think they would release a lot of pressure on themselves.
So you'd like to
Because
see more conversations coming out of people.
I'd love
listening
to see
this?
people being their authentic self, especially from the top. The people that pretending to have it all figured out to turn around and just let people know once in a while that I just want to let you guys know I'm figuring all this stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm figuring out as I go along, because everyone is. Anyone who says they got it all worked out, it's just
Probably lying.
It's a psyops to try and sell you something. Because I know from my experience, and again, I get to work with such different variety of people, that everyone at the end of the day, they're just winging it. Everybody's winging it, and they're just making it up as they go along. Some people are just look good while they're winging it.
Yeah.
You know? And I think so if somebody's sitting there and they're struggling and they're thinking, oh, I don't have a why, I don't have a how, it's not a problem. You know, you can start at any time, at any age. I've seen, you know, we've seen so many examples of people getting started later on in their life and finding their reason why. We've seen people that drastically changed their life. So there's no pressure, to not feel the pressure, to just breathe, to just relax, to just take their time and lean into it.
Take the time out to find out. Dan, I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. Love to know what happens for people. This is such a big subject, why and purpose, and waking up to how we're living, and realize, like you said so beautifully, don't be hard on yourself about any of this stuff. You know, be kind. Where you are is exactly where you are. It's exactly where you need to be.
Yeah.
The fact is, you know, we can change, we can adapt, we can become more. So yeah, thank you so much.
Everything will make sense in the end, I believe.
Until next time.
Thank you.